Don't jump. A struggling CEO saved a pregnant girl. What he discovered will leave you amazed. Jack Thompson stared blankly at the swirling waters beneath the bridge. His thoughts a turbulent storm of regret and despair. Just last year, he had been a celebrated CEO of a tech startup, lauded as the next big thing in Chicago's booming tech scene. Now, he was a shadow of himself grappling with sleepless nights, crippling bills, and the reality that he had failed not just his business but also his family. Each pedestrian that brushed past him seemed to embody what he had lost: drive, purpose, the thrill of success. Now, every step home weighed heavier on him, each one pulling him deeper into a pit of shame and self-loathing as Jack wrestled with his inner demons, the guilt of falling short as a husband, the disappointment in his children's eyes. He spotted her. A pregnant teenager named Sarah stood perilously at the edge of the bridge, her fragile form silhouetted against the fading sun. Instinct kicked in. Don't jump. His voice cut through the noise of the city, desperate and raw. At that moment, something ignited within him, a spark of protection that encouraged him to confront not just her despair but his own. The desperation etched on Sarah's face mirrored his own struggles, creating an uneasy connection that felt weighty. Jack took an involuntary step forward, fear and determination swirling inside him. Could he really help her? Did he have the strength to pull someone back from the brink when he couldn't even save himself? In that moment, he saw a flicker of his former self, a leader, someone of worth, someone who fought against the odds. The tension in his chest tightened as he waited for her next move, uncertain if he could be the one to pull her back into life. As she hesitated, Jack's mind raced back to the corporate world that had once defined him. He thought of the colleagues who turned their backs when the tides turned against him, abandoning him in his most vulnerable hour. The memories stirred a gripping anguish, a blend of bitterness and longing for camaraderie, for a sense of belonging that had evaporated. Would he have been so quick to abandon Sarah? Perhaps it was the very nature of their society that pushed them both to the edge, vilifying failure instead of embracing it as part of life's journey. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack straightened, heart still wrestling with the weight of uncertainty as Sarah met his gaze. The threshold of their divergent lives lay between them, separated by their individual battles with failure and expectation. In the fleeting moment they shared, he realized he was not just fighting for her life. He was battling the remnants of his own. The stakes had never been higher. What if he failed? What if he stumbled back into the shadows that loomed over him? As Sarah stepped back, visibly shaken but alive, Jack's breath caught in his throat. The bridge swayed ever so slightly beneath their feet, and the weight of choice pressed heavily upon him. Would he find a way out of his own darkness to help usher her into a brighter future? With her fragility pulling at his heart, a final thought echoed like a siren call. Was it too late for him to reclaim the man he once was, or were they both simply navigating a world too swift with judgment to find solace in each other? The internal conflict churned, leaving Jack standing at a crossroads, his life hanging in the balance, echoed by the weight of potential and fear, uncertain of what destiny awaited them both. The moment hung suspended in the air, a fragile connection between two lost souls. Jack glanced at Sarah, her shoulders trembling as she stepped further back from the brink, her life dangling just like his. A soft breeze tousled her dark hair while the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting shadows that mirrored the weight of their struggles. What's going on? Jack finally mustered, his voice wavering but steady. You don't have to do this. There's always another option. A flicker of hope ignited within him, the instincts of a leader rising to the fore. Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears, trapped between fear and the instinct to protect the life growing within her. I can't. It's too much. I'm alone. There's no way out. Her voice trembled, revealing the depth of despair clawing at her heart. Jack felt the pull of her pain. I get it, he replied, his chest tightening. I've been in dark places too. But I survived. And you can too. The sunset painted them both in hues of orange and violet, illuminating the uncertainty in Sarah's eyes. For the first time since losing his company, Jack could almost feel purpose seeping back into his soul. You're not alone, he added, stepping onto the bridge's solid ground with a sense of renewed determination. Let us figure this out together. For a moment, these words broke through Sarah's defenses, and as she studied him, Jack saw a flicker of recognition. These were not just dry platitudes. They were drawn from the very depths of his own experience. The warmth of human connection, even amidst despair, began to resonate between them. What had driven Jack to this point, this moment of clarity, seemed almost inexplicable. Moments ago, he felt like a mere specter of his former self. Now, standing there, he unearthed a buried resolve. Perhaps his struggles were not a setback but a pathway to redefine himself. The thought terrified and exhilarated him simultaneously. He underlined his commitment to her. You have everything within you to fight back. You just need to find it. And I can help. While he spoke, something deep in him shifted. The idea of mentorship, of genuinely guiding someone instead of leading with forcefulness, was a foreign concept he was willing to explore. As the words hung between them, Sarah lowered her head, battling an internal war of her own. Jack seized the moment. Can we talk? He ventured. Let us go find a place to sit down, to think things through. I promise you have options. With a hesitant nod, she took a step closer to him, a physical manifestation of the hope that had begun to bloom in her chest. Jack would not let this flicker of strength fade. He resolved to harness his emerging talent in empathy, something he had rarely prioritized in his previous life. Consumed by numbers and profits as they descended the bridge, an unfamiliar feeling washed over him. A buoyancy of spirit he thought long lost. This was no longer about saving Sarah. This was about a transformative journey they could share, a chance for Jack not only to save himself but to rediscover purpose beyond the confines of a corporate hierarchy. Yet as they walked away from the ledge, another powerful thought pierced through Jack's burgeoning optimism. What if he ultimately failed her? What if this second chance at redemption spiraled back into darkness? The fear hung differently now, intimate and real. Suddenly, he felt the weight of responsibility he had avoided for so long. What awaited them at the bottom of the bridge was uncertain. Yet the tapestry of life they began to weave wrapped around them both a dialogue of possibility, pain, and potential. Could he truly become the mentor Sarah needed? Or would he once again plunge into the depths of despair? The answers loomed ahead, a delicate balance of fragility and strength, as Jack took his first steps toward an unforeseen destiny. As Jack and Sarah found a lonely bench nestled beneath the light-dappled canopy of the trees on the riverbank, he felt the gravity of the moment settle around them. The cool evening air was charged with unsaid words, the weight of both their pasts subtly significantly pushing against the present. He gestured for her to sit. The decision was small yet monumental. Both were stepping off the precipice of their previous lives and onto uncharted territory. Tell me what you're feeling, Sarah, he encouraged, instinctively adopting a stance of openness. He saw her visibly flinch, an instinctive reaction signaling the caution that had become a habit over years of disappointment. For Jack, leading teams had once seemed easy, merely a matter of directing traffic. But this was a different realm, the realm of the heart. I don't know if I can explain it, she murmured, her hazel eyes now flitting with uncertainty and glimpses of sorrow. Everything feels so overwhelming. I just wish I could escape it all. Jack leaned forward, his heart sinking with her struggles. But escaping won't fix anything. The weight will still be there when you land. Her raw vulnerability struck a chord deep within him, echoing his own feelings of dislocation since the collapse of his business. All the failures he had refused to face, losses spiraled into self-absorption, began to coalesce into clarity, as he understood that Sarah was to be more than just a project or a mission. She was a mirror reflecting his own need for redemption. I want to show you there's strength in facing reality, not running from it, he said decisively, his voice steady. Let us find a way to work through this together. The paradox of his position gnawed at him. Here was a man who had once defined success by market shares and profits, now offering himself as support in an emotional crisis. Jack felt the tremors of doubt ripple within. Was he truly as capable of empathizing with others as he had been with the numbers that once occupied his life? What if he misstepped? What if, instead of helping her find light amidst the overwhelming darkness, he only threw her deeper into chaos? His insecurities loomed large, but alongside them, he felt the burgeoning realization that personal growth also required fostering courage through connection. "I thought I was strong," she confessed after a contemplative pause, her voice quivering between fear and hope. "But now, I don't even know who I am anymore." "You're discovering who you are," he replied gently, choosing each word carefully. "This moment, these feelings, this is part of your journey." With that affirmation, he felt a shift. The self-centered aspects of failure faded slightly, replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose, not just in mentoring someone but in helping both of them reclaim their identities. "Let us write a list together," he suggested, his excitement tinging his tone. "Not just what you're afraid of, but what you love, what you want. The possibilities can be your map." A hesitant smile flickered on her lips. It was a tentative step toward empowerment, a reflection of growth that he had longed for in himself. Jack knew the task would be challenging. The work required confronting demons would twist their very cores into knots. But suddenly, in front of him was someone willing to take a chance. And perhaps, for the first time since everything had fallen apart, Jack felt as if he had an opportunity to redefine his purpose too. They said it took two to tango, but they were miles away from a dance. Yet, as he watched Sarah's expression paint a canvas of mixed emotions, he felt an all-too-familiar anxiety creep back in. Would the darkness always lurk at the edge, threatening to swallow them both? Just as he imagined the first steps of their plan materializing a journey they would embark on together, an unfamiliar sound shattered their moment of connection. The distant blare of a siren echoed, unfurling the quiet night air like a warning bell. Jack's heart clenched once more. The moment of truth felt tantalizingly close, yet perilously fraught with risks he couldn't yet decipher. The siren's wail faded into an ominous silence that left Jack grappling with an unsettled feeling in his chest. The world around them blurred as he turned his full attention to Sarah, whose expression now reflected his own tumultuous thoughts. Discussions of fears and dreams took on new urgency, the noise outside contrasting sharply with their intimate moment of vulnerability. He could sense her trembling resolve, and he feared that those echoes of uncertainty might shatter the fragile bridge they were trying to build. "Let us focus, Sarah," he urged, willing his voice to remain calm. "What do you feel like the first thing on that list should be?" He mentally chastised himself for not being more instinctively helpful. Was this merely about making a list? Perhaps he was misreading the situation entirely. I want to feel safe," she whispered, her eyes glistening as if emotions threatened to overflow. "Then safety can be your foundation," he suggested, battling the inner turmoil that clouded his judgment. The empowering notion of building that foundation together was an adrenaline rush, a point of clarity amidst doubt. But the weight of leading someone through a crisis loomed large as he felt himself sink further into his own insecurities. Would they build a fortress capable of shielding them from the storms of their histories, or would it all come crashing down? As Sarah nodded, a fragile smile appearing on her face, Jack dug deeper for his own truth. Why was he focused on guiding another when he felt so lost? Sitting there, he realized how vulnerable he remained even in this newfound role. He was no longer a CEO faced with spreadsheets and profits. His own metaphorical balance sheet now comprised raw human emotions, fears of inadequacy dancing in the margins. I want to share my fears too," he admitted, the words escaping before he could catch them. Trust had to flow both ways. "I spent years believing numbers defined my success, but I lost myself. I don't even know what it's like to face my own failures until now." Her eyes widened, reflecting a mixture of surprise and understanding. In that moment, something unspoken seemed to solidify between them. Could shared admissions replace the isolation both felt? Jack sensed that this unveiling could be their first real triumph. Their struggles, like intertwined roots, only amplified the prospect of something new. "Failure is part of life," he continued, drawing from a hard-earned wisdom built upon countless mistakes. When I lost my business, it felt like I lost everything. But now, through you, I'm learning it's possible to redefine success and find something more meaningful. Jack watched as Sarah absorbed his words, and he felt the weight of their collective burdens slightly lifted. This sense of an emerge and retrieve cycle of exploring and reclaiming became increasingly pivotal in his thought process. On the surface, they appeared to be two lost souls seeking a way out. Beneath that facade, their intertwined growth implied something more profound, a connection that transcended individual pain. Could it be that their stories were meant to converge in a way that would catalyze shared healing? But as he extended his hand toward her, inviting her to join him in crafting her vision, the siren's call returned, now insistent, pulling him back to reality. The distant urgency reminded him that their moments of clarity might be fleeting and finite. Jack considered how daunting a task lay ahead. Here they were, two wounded souls grappling with introspection, still spinning on the precipice of their pasts. And yet, he felt a spark of hope emerge, a blend of vulnerability and strength. He remained disarmed by the prospect of guiding her while, unknowingly, finding himself. "Let us make this list," he said, a note of determination edging back into his voice, even as uncertainty flared within him. Sarah's nod confirmed her commitment, and together they began to script their shared journey. But just as Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose bolstering him, a dark cloud loomed again, an unexpected shadow cast by the uncertainties that still lay beyond their moment of connection. The sirens continued their relentless cry, and an instinct nudged him. What if this urge to support Sarah, this quest for redemption, swept them both into deeper waters than they were prepared for? Would he be able to navigate the consequences, or would he instead lead them both astray? As they faced their list, Jack's heart pounded. The real question loomed larger than anything he had previously tackled. Could he genuinely guide Sarah, especially when he still grappled with the storm in his own heart? The quiet between them seemed almost tangible, as if the weight of their shared confessions pressed in from all sides. Jack's mind raced, focusing not just on the written words but on the intent behind them. Each item on the list would be a stepping stone for Sarah, a small evolution. But he wondered, where was his own stepping stone? As he watched Sarah breathe more steadily, he felt a wave of reassurance wash over him. Maybe leading her through this process wasn't as daunting as he had feared. Perhaps in nurturing her growth, he would stumble upon insights of his own. "Let us brainstorm together, shall we?" he suggested, pouring genuine hope into his tone. "Your desire for safety, how can we make that happen?" Her brow furrowed in concentration. "Maybe a safe place to stay? I just want to feel like there's a roof over my head. Somewhere I'm not afraid." The simple clarity of her needs struck Jack. He recalled his own journey to finding stability after losing everything. At that moment, he recognized a parallel. The need for a safe haven, both physical and emotional, was universal. Their challenge wasn't merely about space. It was about creating an environment in which each could grow unencumbered by the past. "Okay, that's a good start," he encouraged, allowing his excitement to surface. "But what else makes you feel safe? Is it people? Routine? Something else?" Sarah bit her lip in thought. It might be the people. If they were supportive and patient. Nodding, Jack realized he was reliving fragments of his old corporate life. He'd often assembled teams that thrived on mutual trust. Yet, those moments of camaraderie were overshadowed by cutthroat competition and unrelenting pressure. This felt different. This was about growth, not just survival. What if we added a support network to that list? Friends or family who will stand by you? Jack proposed, aware that vulnerability could often lead to profound connection. "Honestly, I've been so wrapped up in my fears that I've pushed everyone away," she replied, a hint of pain in her voice. "I don't even know if I still have friends." Jack felt his chest tighten. He shared her regret, having alienated many people during his pursuit of success. The hustle to climb the corporate ladder had cost him relationships that might have been lifelines during his downfall. "I understand that feeling all too well," he said softly, hoping to bridge the chasm they both faced. "Sometimes it's easy to isolate ourselves, but opening up is crucial." A moment of silence fell between them again, thick with unvoiced fears. However, in that quiet, an ember of mutual understanding ignited. "What if I help you reach out?" he offered after gathering his courage. "Reconnecting could provide that support you need, and I could use someone to help me get back on track as well." The sincerity in his voice sparked joy in Sarah's eyes, revealing a flicker of hope mingling with uncertainty. They were both in a seemingly tangled web of despair, but together they could cultivate a clear pathway forward, unexpected yet necessary. Suddenly, the sirens wailed louder, a stark reminder of the chaos outside. Jack's stomach turned. Would their fragile plans withstand the external turmoil? Was risking a deeper connection worth the chance of more pain? "Jack, I appreciate this so much," she said, her voice shaking yet resolute. "But what happens next? I can't keep relying on others without knowing how to stand on my own." Her question echoed in his mind, trapping him in a web of uncertainty. He wanted to be the guide, the anchor, but he felt like a boat tossed off course amid a storm. As he sat there, the glaring truth unfurled, he would have to confront his fears to navigate hers. Confusion and empowerment coiled within him. He started summoning the fragments of resolve he had forged throughout his life. "I think working on our lists is just the beginning. We need to lay the foundations of trust, resilience, and self-discovery. Starts with us." As Jack spoke, a flicker of determination ignited. Could he truly embrace this journey, encouraging Sarah to forge her path while finding his own? As the sirens outside faded once more, it set a foreboding backdrop to the choices ahead. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed violently, a stark contrast to the silence that had enveloped them. They both flinched, eyes wide with trepidation. Jack sensed that the outside world would intrude upon their delicate moment yet again. A potential catalyst for chaos, but this time, perhaps it heralded opportunities for reaffirmation. "Sarah, whatever happens next, promise me we'll face it together," he said, the unyielding tension of the moment heavy on them. "Together," she echoed, a new fire lighting in her gaze. But as they exchanged their newfound promises, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that navigating their intertwined journeys would lead them not only into personal growth, but into confrontations with truths neither was truly prepared to face. The night deepened, shrouding them both in uncertainty. What would the message on Sarah's phone reveal? Would they be forced to confront the turbulence waiting outside their fragile resolve? Jack's gaze drifted towards Sarah's phone, the persistent vibrating beckoning immediate attention. The room seemed to shrink around them, the air thick with unspoken words and shared vulnerabilities. He leaned forward, his curiosity piqued by what the screen might reveal, but a new layer of anxiety settled in his chest. Was their newfound connection about to be tested? "Go ahead, check it," he urged, masking his inner turmoil. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited on the other side of that notification could shift their fragile alliance. With a shaking hand, Sarah unlocked her phone. "It's from my brother," she murmured, eyes wide with a mix of hope and dread. Jack's heart raced. He remembered how cutting off communication had driven a wedge deeper into both their lives. Could this be the moment she found her footing, or would the past pull her back? "What does it say?" he asked, sensing that the anticipation would either elevate her spirit or amplify the burden they both carried. Sarah's expression flickered through a series of emotions as she read the message. He's worried about me. Wants to know if I'm okay." Her voice trembled, a spectral echo of mixed feelings creeping in. "Reply," Jack encouraged, recognizing the mixed signals of fear and longing. "Tell him you're okay. Open that line again." He was aware that these small digital connections could spawn real human relationships, the kind that could nurture their respective paths forward. As she typed, Jack's mind wandered. He questioned his own readiness to confront his demons while daring to encourage Sarah. It was paradoxical, the way they were leaning on each other in uncertainty, yet both were on the cusp of reclamation in their own lives. Reaching out isn't just about being okay, Jack reflected, using the moment to probe deeper into their mutual situation. It's about acknowledging where we are, Vulnerability can foster strength. Sometimes it's more challenging than the climb up the corporate ladder I'm trying to escape. Sarah glanced up, and for a moment Jack suspected he might have struck a chord. You think being honest would help? She asked, a note of skepticism in her voice. Absolutely, he asserted, relying on his instinct rather than the polished logic of business meetings. Those who care about you are ready to support you, and letting them in can heal old wounds. As she pressed send, both relief and anxiety washed over her face. What if he just sees me as broken? As someone who needs fixing? Jack shook his head vigorously, feeling a surge of determination. Everyone has their cracks. You're not broken, you're in progress. And so am I. We're not just surviving anymore, we're evolving. Suddenly, the weight of shared experiences gripped him. He felt acutely aware of how connected they were in this moment of vulnerability. Jack recognized how his own past struggles with self-identity primed him for this opening with Sarah. Yet part of him wrestled with the looming fear of having his own issues laid bare. With the message now sent, Sarah leaned back, eyes still processing. What if he asks more questions? More about where I've been? Then you answer honestly, he replied, the urge to support her overpowering his own insecurities. This part of rebuilding. Just like me, I'm having to face my old life too. But it's time to stop burying what we've been through. A sudden clarity illuminated Sarah's face, as if she were finally comprehending the power embedded in their exchange. Still, it was fragile, teetering between hope and uncertainty. I want to work on my list, she finally declared, her voice stronger now. It seems vital. If I can start with simple steps, maybe I'll find more strength to push through. Jack felt a surge of pride for her brave decision. Although he felt less certain about his own next steps, he recognized this shared accountability as a new foundation. Perhaps this was the beginning of a journey that would unveil not just the courage to take risks but also empowered him to face his own uneven path to recovery. But as they settled into their newfound resolve, his phone buzzed ominously in his pocket. With each vibration, a sense of foreboding filled the air. Who could it be? Just when he thought he was carving a path forward, the past threatened to arise again. Sarah, he said, his voice tight as he pulled his phone from his pocket, glancing at the screen. He hesitated, grappling with what lay ahead. What if the person on the other end knows more about my failures than I want to admit? The question hung around them, heavy with the implications of the truth they had been facing together. Would he find a way to use this impending storm as an opportunity to confront what he buried? Or would it send them both tumbling back into chaos? Jack's heart pounded as he stared at the glowing screen. The name flashing on the notification felt like a weight pressing down on him. It was a name tied to his past, a name that brought forth memories he had spent years trying to escape. He glanced at Sarah, whose own vulnerability had begun to spark something different within him, a sense of accountability that he had almost forgotten existed. You should answer, she encouraged softly, her tone a mix of support and concern. He hesitated. The impulse to ignore it wrestled with the mounting realization that avoidance wouldn't serve him any longer. Every ignored call, every unreturned message had been a step backward. What if the conversation turned sour? He murmured, almost to himself. Then face it head-on. You've been avoiding it long enough. Haven't you? Her voice had an unmistakable strength now, the effect of her own decision to reach out having infused her with newfound energy. I guess you're right. The words felt heavy but necessary. He took a deep breath, relieved to feel that they were moving forward, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths. Pressing answer. A wave of anxiety swept over him. Hello? Jack, it's me. The voice on the other end brought a rush of mixed emotions: fear, resentment, and something akin to longing. Well, this is unexpected, he replied, trying to keep his tone neutral. He had expected to feel anger or defensive, but a more profound truth bubbled up. He was scared. Scared of being judged, of facing the fallout of decisions he had made. I heard through the grapevine that you've been going through a rough patch. Is it true? You're not the man you used to be, the voice said, each word laced with concern but also an edge of critique. In that moment, Jack felt the urge to deflect, to throw up defenses against his detractor. Yet, he thought of Sarah the way she had faced the difficult truths about her own past and opted for another approach. It's true. I've made some choices that haven't panned out the way I expected. But I'm working on it. Pause lingered on the line. Are you seeking help? I am. Jack could almost hear the shift in their tone as the judgment he feared began to dissipate. Maybe there's hope for you yet. Don't waste the chance to start over. You need to rebuild your network, especially with those who care. The clarity of that statement struck him. What kind of network had he been nurturing? For years, he had surrounded himself with sycophants and little more than superficial connections, hiding behind his title instead of fostering genuine relationships. I understand that now, he confessed. I was blinded by my own ambition. I forgot the value of vulnerability. Good. Use that to drive you forward. You can't tackle the past alone. The call ended, leaving behind a torrent of thoughts swirling through his mind like a tempest. He turned to Sarah, her expression reflecting a mix of empathy and curiosity. What happened? She asked, her eyes bright. I realized I can't rebuild my life without letting others in. It's not just about me anymore, he responded, feeling lighter, yet aware of the turmoil ahead. Letting others in takes resilience, though. She seemed to mirror his thoughts, contemplating what that meant for both of them. It does, he replied, as awareness blossomed in him. I spent so long building walls. What about you? Are you ready to let go of your own? As uncertainty flickered in her gaze, Jack felt the air thickening once again. He had ventured into his own growth, yet Sarah's hesitation marked a pivotal moment. The journey of improvement they both yearned for hinged on mutual bravery, a commitment neither had fully embraced yet. Just then, another message pinged through, interrupting the moment. Jack's pulse quickened, an incisive reminder that the storm wasn't over yet. It's my team. They need answers about the project. I thought I was keeping them at bay. Maybe it's time to confront your leadership as well, Sarah suggested, a hint of challenge in her voice. What if they're waiting for a sign of your honesty? He met her gaze and felt the weight of her encouragement. She had always been the one to push him towards transparency. Maybe we both have to navigate these storms together. As he prepared to respond to his team's inquiry, the tension between past and present anchored around him. Could he integrate this newfound clarity into his professional choices? Would the dynamic he fostered affect not just his management style but also the culture within his workplace? You got this, Jack, Sarah said, an undeniable faith echoing in her voice. The edge of uncertainty remained, yet he sensed something shift. Somewhere amid the doubts, a resolve began to unfurl. His path ahead had just been illuminated, both personally and professionally. Let us see where this goes, he said, pulling up the project details on his phone, ready to plunge into the fray. But the potential pitfalls loomed large. The stakes were higher than ever. Transformations weren't linear, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the coming days would test both their tenacity. With a flick of his thumb, he tapped to send his message, feeling the threads of fate intertwine yet again, and wondered if they would be strong enough to withstand the trials approaching. As Jack stared at the screen, his heart raced not just from sending the message, but from the swell of responsibility that accompanied it. He was more than a figurehead now. He felt the weight of leadership pressing down on him, enveloped by the challenge to foster an environment beyond mere deadlines and results. He had spent so long entangled in his own failures that each keystroke now resonated with a fragile hope. The silence that followed his message was suffocating. He was no longer merely a voice that dictated decisions. He had become a conduit for dialogue, stepping into a realm of openness he had shunned for too long. Fear and anticipation wove into a what-ifs tapestry that threatened to unravel him at any moment. What if they didn't respond? What if the trust he was trying to build fell flat? Jack? Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. Deep breath. You're ready for this. As he looked up, he could see her calm presence, grounding him in the moment. What if they don't see me as their leader anymore? What if they view all my past mistakes as disqualifiers? The question spilled out raw and honest. You've already acknowledged your missteps, she replied. That's the first step. They'll appreciate your willingness to be real with them. Her belief in him sparked something deeper, igniting a determination that had lain dormant for too long. He straightened, taking her words as an anchor. Maybe redefining leadership means reshaping expectations, he mused. It's not about being flawless, but about being authentic. Jack felt the stirrings of his internal resolve, fueled by Sarah's empathy. Each anxious thought began to transform into a powerful assertion, not just confidence, but a commitment to vulnerability. The notification pinged, jolting him back to reality. A response from his team flickered onto the screen, each word heavy with significance. Thanks for reaching out, Jack. We're here for you to answer any questions. A wave of relief washed over him. They were willing to engage, but he sensed that navigating this conversation would be more than just delivering updates. He needed to acknowledge the void left by his absence as a leader. With each word he typed, he felt his emotions crystallize. I've made some choices that aren't reflective of the standards we strive for. I'm excited to reconnect and rebuild our trust as a team going forward. As he pressed send, a shiver of apprehension shot through him. Then, he shared with the team the plans to meet in a few days, eager to lay the groundwork for a collaborative future. But as that weight lifted, new tensions surfaced. Would they see this as a genuine attempt at connection or simply a rehash of familiar disappointments? Whatever happens in that meeting, you're already on the right track, Sarah assured him, reading the conflict etching itself on his brow. But don't just focus on what needs to be said. Listen, truly listen, she instructed, the fire within her mirroring his determination. I will, he promised, the conviction firming in his thoughts. Jack turned his attention back to Sarah, whose own metamorphosis was unfolding before him. And what about you? He asked tentatively, shifting the lens onto her journey. Are you willing to take the leap and share your own truth? I've seen how hard you've been fighting against your past too. The question hung heavy, deepening the moment. Sarah glanced away, absorbing the challenge. I want to. I really do, she admitted slowly. But I'm scared it'll shatter whatever progress I've made. Jack couldn't help but feel a flicker of empathy. She was wrestling demons of her own. Maybe we're both breathing life into new starts. Together, he suggested softly. Her eyes met his, realization dawning. What if allowing ourselves to be vulnerable isn't a weakness, but a step toward healing for both of us? Yes, Jack affirmed, excitement bubbling at the prospect of transforming challenges into shared growth. We could create a dynamic built on honesty instead of facades. It's what my team deserves and what we owe ourselves. With a new vision crystallizing in his mind, he took another deep breath, feeling the fear transform into fuel. But lurking beneath this newfound empowerment was the nagging thought that courage didn't guarantee an easy path ahead. How would they confront critics who thrived on failure? The next hours loomed, pregnant with possibilities and peril. He could already feel reality creep in, demanding answers and instilling doubt. Jack knew that stepping outside his comfort zone wouldn't just redefine him as a professional. It would test the very essence of who he was becoming. As his phone buzzed again, signaling Sarah's silent agreement, the anticipation pulsed. The need for connection simmered just beneath the surface, but one question loomed larger and darker. Could they conquer their pasts to redefine their futures? With that uncertainty hanging in the air, Jack sensed a turning. Whatever awaited them on the horizon would demand every ounce of their willpower. And as the weight of reality settled over him, he readied himself for the impending confrontation not just with his team, but with the lurking shadows of their intertwined histories. The tension of the upcoming meeting gnawed at Jack, each passing minute amplifying the weight of his impending decisions. He paced through the empty halls of the office, his mind racing beyond the echo of his footsteps. The silence enveloped him, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. Every corner he turned seemed to summon memories of past failures, misjudgments that had cost him credibility and alienated him from the very people he now sought to unite. He paused, taking in the sterile walls that had once felt comforting but now felt stifling. Jack cracked open the door to an unoccupied conference room, the sunlight streaming through the glass windows illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air. This was where he would meet his team. In this very space, He had stood defending choices that had only deepened the divide between them. How was he expected to transform this room into a sanctuary of reconciliation? His thoughts were interrupted by Sarah's footsteps. "You look lost," she observed, her voice laced with empathy. "Maybe I am," Jack replied, feeling exposed. What if my sincerity isn't enough? What if they've already made up their minds about me? That's the risk we take, isn't it? She said, her gaze unwavering. True vulnerability invites both connection and judgment. You can't control how they will respond. But it's my responsibility to lead them, Jack stressed, the weight of duty pressing heavily on him. Every decision I make, every word I say, will shape this moment. What if I still fail? Failure isn't always the end, Sarah countered softly. Sometimes it's the beginning of something profound. Remember that you're not stepping into this alone. You've acknowledged your past, and now you have the chance to empower others to do the same. He took a deep breath. Right. Empowerment. I need to remind myself why I'm doing this. Jack felt a surge of determination as he recalled the faces of his team. Each one was a representation of his potential in a collaborative atmosphere. Their progress had intertwined with his, and perhaps growth didn't hinge solely on success, but on their collective journey towards healing. As his spine straightened, Jack realized he needed another layer of honesty, one he hadn't considered yet. "Sarah, I've been thinking, not only do I need to lead by example, but I also have to be open about my own fears." "Absolutely," she agreed, her response flowing effortlessly. "Sharing your uncertainties might just create a space for them to share theirs. You can't break down the walls alone." Nodding, Jack's thoughts swiftly shifted to the meeting details, considering how to introduce this new perspective without overwhelming his team. "How can I facilitate this conversation? I want to encourage them to speak freely without feeling judged." "Start by asking questions," Sarah suggested. "Candid ones. Let them lead, and you'll have a clearer picture of where they stand." The planning clicked into place. Instead of relying on a one-sided presentation, Jack would encourage dialogue. He would listen just as intently as he intended to share. This wasn't merely about addressing past failures. It was about fostering a collaborative future. He felt a renewed sense of purpose waking within him. "All right, I'll give that a shot," he said, voice steadier now. "But if they come at me with anger, that might shake me more than I expect." "Then face it head-on," Sarah encouraged. "Don't shy away from the discomfort. Speak to that anger and allow it to scratch the surface of understanding. This might be a turning point for both of you." Jack's heart raced with anticipation and fear. He was on the brink of an evolution, not only as a leader but also as a human being who could face adversity head-on. With a nod, he steeled himself for the challenge ahead. The upcoming meeting wouldn't just redefine his authority. It might illuminate the pathways to healing for both himself and his team. Just as he felt his determination solidify, Sarah's phone buzzed, and her expression shifted subtly. "I have to take this," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "I'll check back in a bit." "Go," he urged. Alone with his racing thoughts, Jack knew uncertainty would envelop him in the moments before they gathered. Still, he couldn't shake the bittersweet anticipation tightening his chest. Beneath the layers of anxiety lay the flicker of hope for a new beginning. As he glanced around the empty room, one thought crystallized. What if this meeting could redefine more than just his leadership? It could inspire others to break through their own barriers. This thought lingered as he awaited both the confrontation and the unexpected gifts of authenticity it could unveil. But would they be willing to confront their truths as he was? The clock ticked down to the moment that could either shatter his resolve or cement a path of redemption. The next hours loomed too large, each tick a reminder that the time had come to face not only his past, but also the shadows of his team's uncertainties. As the clock approached the hour, Jack felt the world around him still, as if suspended in time, a prelude to the metamorphosis he hoped would unfold. The air hummed with tension, yet he sensed a palpable shift within himself, a growing confidence fueled by vulnerability and the promise of authentic connection. The conference room buzzed with murmurs as the team filed in, their expressions silent witnesses to the transformation Jack was on the cusp of showcasing. A year ago, he would have entered with stride and bravado, armed with prepared data and a rehearsed spiel designed to dazzle. But today was different. Today he would expose the truths he had been hiding, and in doing so invite them to confront their own. "Hey everyone, let us sit," he said evenly as he stepped to the head of the table. As they settled, Jack could feel anxiety creeping back, but he steadied his breath and turned it into resolve. "Before we dive into business, I want to talk openly. I haven't been the leader you deserve. I failed to connect with you in a genuine way, and that cost us." The room fell silent, his team's eyes widening at his candid admission. He pressed forward, fueled by the urgency of the moment. "I've lost people I care about in pursuit of success, and along the way I lost myself. But I'm here now, ready to build with you, not just for you." A murmur spread among them, a mix of surprise and understanding. He dared to make eye contact, feeling their defenses lower, and he continued, "It's not just about results, it's about us. I want to understand where you're coming from. I need that understanding too." The conversation unfolded like a tapestry, each thread woven with their collective stories and unspoken fears. As team members started to share their thoughts about pressures, frustrations, even insecurities, Jack realized he was standing at the precipice of a remarkable experience. They were not just colleagues. They were people navigating their own journeys of transformation. "Jack, I appreciate you saying this, but why should we trust you again?" One voice erupted with palpable skepticism. Jack recognized it. This was a pivotal moment. "You're right," he responded firmly, allowing the weight of their disappointment to settle between them. "You don't owe me your trust after the way I've behaved. It's up to me to earn it back. I'll start by being transparent. I want to listen and learn." As he spoke, Jack felt walls falling, not only between him and his team but also within himself. The dialogue continued to build, evolving from hesitance to a torrent of emotions. Frustrations turned to solutions, worries to collaborative energy. By sharing their fears, they were already laying down the first bricks of a new foundation, one constructed by honesty and empathy. Eventually, as the meeting drew to a close, Jack realized something remarkable had occurred. He had not only faced the team he once felt alienated from, he had also discovered a renewed purpose within himself. The fear that had once paralyzed him was now a distant echo, replaced by solid confidence and an established competence in forging real connections. Leaving the conference room, Jack felt lighter as hope thrummed in his veins. "Jack," someone called out. It was Sarah, standing by the door. "You were incredible in there." His heart swelled, and he smiled genuinely at her enthusiasm. "Thanks, I couldn't have done it without you. You showed me the importance of being honest." "Maybe now we can both work on that list we talked about," she suggested. "Together." "Absolutely," he replied with conviction. "I think we've begun to reshape our paths into something incredible." In that moment of camaraderie, they had both crossed a line from mere survival into living fully, holding their growing possibilities close as they walked out together. Jack's mind raced with the endless potential that lay ahead, both personally and professionally. Standing on the brink of a new journey, he felt grateful for the tempest that had led him here, for every struggle, every failure, and every moment of vulnerability. He had transformed not just into a leader, but into a mentor, a friend, and most importantly, someone deserving of a second chance. Now was the time to soar above the shadows of their pasts, to redefine success not by profits but by relationships, resilience, and the profound strength to lift one another up. But remember, this transformation doesn't end here. You need to subscribe now to witness more emotional resonances like Jack's journey. This is the moment to show your support and help us grow an inspiring community. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and bring more stories that move hearts. Comment below with your thoughts on this transformative journey and what it means to you. And for those who need to see this powerful conclusion, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. They deserve to witness this inspiring path to redemption and growth too.